Paired.
This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Good morning and welcome to church. We are not in the sanctuary, but this is church. For church is not the building, it is the people. And wherever we are gathered is sanctuary. I welcome all of you wherever and whenever you are connecting with us. Beth and I, like you, are connecting from our homes for these services with the help of Michael Feeney, providing technical support and guidance from his home. And I hope you'll join Beth, Michael, and me after the service for what we still call coffee hour, though you have to bring your own coffee, tea, or juice. And following our time of conversation, today our moderator and parish committee will lead us in one of the most important things we do together as a congregation, holding our annual meeting and using our votes to build the structures which allow us to live out our visions. I hope you'll stay for that. Though only members of the church are able to vote, everyone is welcome to attend and speak. And here's a look at what's happening this week. Here, enjoy a story on Wednesday, and tea and conversation on Thursday. On Thursday evening also, Stride, Situate Together for Representation, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity, is meeting over Zoom to talk about the killing of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor, and how we in our community can work to change the circumstances which perpetuate the structures of racism. There are also things happening in Situate too to call attention to the death of George Floyd and the larger inequities of our society. Beginning at 10 a.m. this morning, there's a silent protest happening at the Rotary. The Sullivan family from our congregation helped to organize this, and Kim invites everyone to join them or wave or honk if you're driving by. Also today, we're inviting everybody to take part in We Chalk the Walk, and I'll be saying more about that later. And on Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m., there will be a Situate vigil as part of a statewide vigil of mourning. Details on that are still being determined, but you'll find information on it and all our other events in this week's What's Happening. So if you're not on our mailing list, I invite you to contact us through our Facebook page or our website, both First Parish Situate, and get on our mailing list so that you can join us for all those events. Though we haven't been taking a formal offering for these online services, if you'd like to support First Parish, you'll find a donation button on our website. And it's not too late to make a financial pledge for the coming year, for it takes all our contributions, song and service, money, meetings, and meditation to make our life together. That life is expressed in our covenant, and I invite you now to say our covenant with me. Michael is going to unmute us all so we can hear one another's voices. Love is the spirit of the church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to cherish the living earth, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. It sounds along the ages, but what is the it that sounds? Is it love? Is it justice? Is it wisdom? Is it God? The beauty of our tradition is that each of us answers that question differently, and none of us is wrong. And we all are filled with that spirit which goes by many names, none of which can comprehend it. Our spiritual ancestors left England in 1634 to live and express that spirit in greater freedom here in a new land. But though they could worship in Situate without fear of arrest, they were not able to live fully into the power and vision of that spirit. They were not able to create the beloved community, the truly shining city on a hill which they sought. Perhaps it was because their vision of who would live and thrive in that city was too narrow. Perhaps it was because this new land wasn't uninhabited, as they told themselves, and that city can't be built on land forcibly taken or on mythology based in lies. To be life-giving, our mythologies must be true. Perhaps they weren't able to create that shining city because their towns and cities were built in part by those forced into service, both Black and white, who received no fair recompense or share in this new world. And so today, as we celebrate the ministry of the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church of Situate, past, present, and to come, we also mourn for the world, that shining city that we haven't been able to bring into being. These recent months have brought into our focus how great the divide is between our ancestors' vision and our vision and what exists. So while we mourn the 101,000 people in this country who have died of the coronavirus, our mourning is increased by knowing how disproportionately people of color are in those numbers. We mourn that zip codes determine who will live and who will die, and even outside of this pandemic time, who will thrive and who will suffer. On this weekend, when Jews remember the breath of wisdom written into the Torah, and Christians celebrate the divine breath filling Jesus's followers, we mourn the ways our society denies breath to one another. George Floyd died literally begging for that breath. But Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor also had their breath taken from them, as well as so many others, some whose names we know or could learn, others lost to our knowledge. But that spirit of justice which breathed through the 10 Commandments, that spirit of love which breathed through the disciples, that spirit of wisdom which breathed through our ancestors, it breathes through us still. It calls us to use our breaths to speak and work, to judge and value in ways which offer deep breaths, deep life to all people, whatever their color, age, ability, or views. It calls to us to turn again to building, but not this time an isolated city on a hill, removed from the world, but something more expansive, something not removed from the world, but which comprehends and reflects the inherent radiance of our world. Not a building, but beloved community. So on this weekend of Shavuot, Pentecost, and our annual meeting, let us recommit ourselves to singing, declaring, letting roar that spirit which breathes within each and every one of us, and through each and every one of us, and among each and every one of us. Let it carry us not to a new world on the globe, but a new world for these times. I invite you now to join Beth in singing verse 2 of It Sounds Along the Ages. As I light our chalice now, I invite you, if you have candles near you, to light yours. Hear now these spirit-filled words of my colleague Lisa Doge. Why a flaming chalice? The question comes. It's the cup of life, we answer, a cup of blessings overflowing, a cup of water to quench our spirit's thirst, a cup of wine for celebration and dedication, the flame of truth, the fire of purification, oil for anointing, healing. Out of the chaos, fear, and horror of the Second World War, this symbol was crafted. So may it be for us in these days of uncertainty, sorrow, and rage. And may it also be a light to warm our souls and guide all of us to the home which is to be. Let us join Beth in singing verse 3 of It Sounds Along the Ages.
Forever
So this is the time in the service where if you were here, if we were together, I would invite the children and anybody else who would like to come closer for some conversation. So metaphorically, you can get a little closer to your screens if you like. And last week, I invited you to look around and see what you noticed that was different. And I'm going to invite you to look around again and see what's different today. And if you have somebody nearby, maybe you could share your thoughts on what you see that's different from usual here. So did you notice that we have a new tablecloth instead of the white one? We have one with reds and golds and yellow and orange here. And the glass that's holding our flame is red, and I'm wearing red. And also you might have noticed that when slides come up on the screen, like our hymn that you just sang, that's red too. So why red now, you may be wondering. Today is Pentecost, and that's the day when we remember, along with our Universalist ancestors, that we're not looking to a God who's outside of us or somebody outside of us who did everything for us, but we remember that the spirit of justice, the spirit of love, that spirit we just sang about, that spirit is in each of us. And I'm not sure why the color red is part of this day, but red is the color of life, right? Because blood is red. Red is the color of love. Red is also the color of courage, and all those things are part of this day. So that could be why we have red today, and that's why you're seeing a lot of red. And one reason I wanted to make sure we change the color this year is because I think sometimes seeing things on screen, especially, we can kind of lose track of changes, and color makes us see, oh, I'm going to look at this. So one of the things that color can do is call our attention not just to what's changed here in our church life, but what we can do in the world. One of the things I've noticed lately is that a lot of people have been chalking hearts in beautiful colors on their driveway. I'm wondering if any of you have chalked some hearts on your driveway, giving love to healthcare workers and other people who are taking care of us in these times. And that's a way that color is helping us notice and call attention to what's happening in the world. There are a lot of sad things happening in the world, and I would think that your parents and you guys have been talking about these things. And some of the sadness in the world comes from the disease that we're all worried about, but some of it also comes from people not treating each other fairly. And so today, to try to help people think about ways we could treat each other more fairly, we're asking you guys to be part of a whole group of people, I think around the nation, who are going to be doing some chalking about that in their driveways. So you could maybe chalk some words if you can write, or you could chalk some hearts or some pictures to you that show the world that you want it to be. Maybe it's a sun shining on everybody. Maybe it's people who look different all together in your driveway. Maybe you might write some of the words that are important, like power, justice, unity, listen, heal, respect, in your driveway, and maybe make some doodles around them. And the other thing we'd really like is not just to have our individual driveways chalked, but the church driveway. So Eileen was over at the church driveway this morning, early before this service. I don't know if any of you went over and joined her, but I know there was some chalking done. And I'm gonna be at the church around 2 o'clock for a bit. And I'll be chalking there. And so I invite you, and you don't have to be a child, anybody of any age, come, and we'll be masked and separated, and we'll be doing some chalking there too, to try to draw attention to what's happening in the world and giving people hope, because that's the other thing bright colors do. Don't they make you feel more positive that yes, we can make a difference? And that's really the good news of our time together every Sunday of this festival of Pentecost, is that we don't have to wait for somebody else to do things. In fact, we're not supposed to wait. We have the power, the Spirit within and among us, and we can start making that difference now. So I hope you'll think about joining me or talking wherever you are. And as a reminder of that power that exists within us, let's sing Gathered Here in the Mystery of the Hour. This is the time in our service where we share our joys and our sorrows with one another. You may, there's a couple ways we can do them. You may, in the chat box, write that you have a joy or sorrow to share, and Michael will go to you and you'll come on screen and say it. Or you can write your joy or sorrow in the chat box and Carrie Borkowski will read it for you. Or you can go into the ... area and actually raise your Zoom hand, not your real hand, but your Zoom hand, and Michael will see that and call on you. And when you, however you express it, please make sure to tell us your name, your joy or your sorrow, and if there's some way we can support you. And after each one, we'll say our response, may love abound. Are there any to be shared this morning?
So Bob Murdoch shared a concern for the direct targeting of journalists, covering everything that's going on.
I'm placing this stone in our bowl of water for Bob's concern. And let's say our response, may love abound. I think things are pretty overwhelming, so I place this stone for all the joys and sorrows present but unspoken, maybe even unnamed among us. Would you join me in saying our unison prayer?
We give
thanks for
thanks for being.
We give thanks
for being here.
We
We give thanks for being here. together.
Let us open our hearts to mystery. We come together this day when we look to the past, both of our history and our nation's history, with pride at what we have accomplished and with sorrow of all that has not worked out as our ancestors in this place and in this country hoped. We mourn for lives lost to illness, but also to injustice, to violence, to racism. We mourn the ways the stories we have told have enabled this to happen, have helped to set up the understandings and the behaviors which have not led to health for all people. We pray especially for those who are rioting, who are mourning, who are despairing. We pray for our cities which are burning, for people's anger, which has not been channeled into new visions, new ways of being, but left to fester and smolder and burn. We recommit ourselves today to turning again, to working towards the world that embraces and cherishes all people. That world where we understand one another as brothers and sisters, as kindred. That world where we want one another's well-being and understand that the bettering of others does not diminish our own welfare. We recommit ourselves to that world where all are treated with love and with justice, and all are offered the things they need to grow and blossom and bear fruit. We give thanks for all those who are already and have been over the centuries working to make that world real. For though we mourn, we also acknowledge that we have come far, that this world is fairer than it was, and that there is always hope for the future. We give thanks for those who are marching peacefully, those who are working behind the scenes and out on the streets, those who are singing, speaking, legislating, adjudicating, all ways that we can work together to make the world we want. We give thanks for Kim Sullivan and her family at the Rotary protesting, for all who are chalking and standing silently in vigils today. We give thanks that we are not alone in this work, in this world, in this spirit. Let us take time now for our own meditations and our own prayers.
Good morning. So it is spring, a time for renewal and rebirth, for shedding our winter coats, basking in the warmth of the sun, anticipating the promise of summer. The beautiful summer that comes to our very special community by the sea. And yet this year, in this time, everything is more than just a little bit different. Things are upside down for all of us. Scary, frustrating, sad, lonely, too busy, not nearly busy enough. As a First Parish community, we are disconnected in many ways, including from one another at services, catching up at our traditional coffee hour, and meeting in other group gatherings at the church. And then just this week, with the lives lost to the pandemic, topping 100,000 in our country alone, and with the suffering of so many, so plainly and painfully on display, it may be hard to embrace that renewal and rebirth and to find joy in the gift of this new season. For those of us on the Parish Committee who care deeply about this church and all of you, this dichotomy of light and darkness, of energy and exhaustion, has caused us to pause and consider how the church can and should move forward in this very different time. What is the new normal for a community like ours? How will we continue in the COVID and post-COVID world to hold on to and nurture what makes First Parish so special? Who will do what is needed to move us forward? What have we learned in these long weeks of challenge about what really matters for us as a church? What do we need to hold on to as a community? Are there things we need to let go of? How can we best harness everyone's help in this thinking and planning and doing? But we wondered, is this the time to ask for your help? Or are people just too overwhelmed to join, to lead, to create, to connect, to give? Are we all simply too drained from the days of homeschooling and Zoom calling and general worrying to be active in church organizing and activities? Should we invite new members now? Should we ask people to assume new roles as leaders in the church? Should we move forward with plans to renovate our building and raise money to support that? These are important questions as we seek to be sensitive to a community of people that we care so deeply about. But then we thought, well, what if coming together and creating a new normal First Parish might help people cope? What if the joy of exploring shared values and a common commitment to a better world could actually lift us up and quiet the noise that drains us? Maybe now more than ever is the time to ask. Maybe now more than ever is the time to lean into our church community. For me, this attitude of leaning in has already paid great dividends. It has caused me to explore my heart-centered connection to this community and our shared faith, to see what I need to focus on and what I can let go of, to be tolerant of my fears, but not ruled by them, to live with an open heart, to love and share love, to express gratitude, to ask others what matters to them, to ask others for help. At a recent conversation about membership in First Parish with many of you, I listened as you shared what has drawn you to this community and the ways that your experience in the church feeds your soul. That conversation was yet another gift from First Parish. I left it with a full heart so deeply grateful for a community of people who understand the essence of spirituality as I do, as love and service and truth, as tolerance, as peace. Today, we lean in and celebrate together. In a few minutes, we will welcome new members. After the service at our annual meeting, we will vote on a slate of new leaders and on an exciting plan for renovations of our church home. We have much to do this year to shape what will be the new normal of First Parish. I invite all of you to lean into that work, to explore all the ways that rather than further draining you, doing so can feed and nurture you. Join, ask, share your ideas, your time, your talents, your treasure. Let's see if together we can create an even better First Parish in the years to come.
Today, we are welcoming those who have signed our membership book since our last ceremony of welcome. Our newest members are Susan Simmons, Annie Landry Simmons, and Becky Malamute, who comes to us with her husband Seth and their children Max and Olivia. We asked each of them to respond to the questions, what do you love about First Parish, and what are you looking forward to? Here first are Annie and Susan's video answer.
Good morning, First Parish community.
Good morning.
We're very excited. So yesterday when we were honored with signing the book, Pam asked us to talk a little bit about what we like about First Parish and what we're looking forward to. So I have elected to take what we like. This morning I'd like to say what I like about First Parish is that we feel embraced by this community. This is a community of caring souls, of people that are willing to take action for things that are important to all of us.
Good morning, and I am taking the part of what we're really looking forward to. So Susan and I feel really fortunate to have found this church and the members of this church and Reverend Pam, and we are looking forward to getting to know you all better and really digging in to service our community. So thank you for this opportunity.
And now, the Malamute family.
Hi, we're the Malamutes. We're proud new members of First Parish Situate. And when we first started to attend services, the focus was really on the kids' religious education. And I think we've all been pleasantly surprised at how much the church and the community has become a part of our lives. From the Christmas pageant to ringing the bell on Memorial Day to finding time and space for quiet and for singing during services, and to our story times. It's really been a great experience, and we look forward to seeing what will bring us in the future. Anybody else have anything they want to say? Max?
I like about this church, I like coffee hour, and I like story time, and I like when everybody can go up in the front.
You like that part? That's great. What about you, Lou?
I like that the secret staircase is at the front, and I like and I like coffee hour because I like all the grapes.
Oh, the grapes?
I like all the sweets in coffee hour. And I also love the secret staircase. The most favorite part about my school is that that in my classroom for Sunday school I have a fish tank, and there's a baby catfish and a mama catfish.
There's lots for us to learn and explore at church, right?
And the favorite part of my classroom is that we get to do cool stuff, that we get to like paint, and I like the glow in the rock, and I like the glow in the dark moon.
So we look forward to getting to know all of you better and to being a part of this community for years to come.
Now for the formal welcome. Becky, Susan, and Annie, you have accepted the responsibility of membership, finding that you support the ideals of Unitarian Universalism and our church, and that you want to commit to those ideals. The responsibility of becoming a member is a lifetime process. We are glad that you have chosen to join us in this process. May you find the years ahead to be filled with the hope and vision that your membership promises. Would you now please read your part of the covenant of membership?
Look at the. So is this my part?
Yes.
Yes, okay. We tie ourselves. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay.
Take a breath. Don't worry.
We tie ourselves
to First Parish with joy for the journey we are setting out on, and with gratitude for this community and our new home. We covenant to live according to the love which is the spirit of this church, and to engage with you in the ministries and life of this congregation.
Current members of this congregation, we're going to unmute you all now. Would you please offer your part of the promise, which will be on the screen? We tie ourselves
to
welcoming you as companions on the journey, and as members of this community, our home. We covenant to live according to the love which is the spirit of this church, and to engage with you in the ministries and life of this congregation. Now, we can't offer you our traditional handshake and hugs now, but we invite everyone to hit the icon for clapping Go into your meeting controls at the bottom, right-click reactions, and then click on clapping. And you're welcome to keep on clapping as we sing our final hymn.
There we go.
Yeah.
Clapping.
Are they clapping?
No, I just for that for like 5 seconds. Keep clapping.
Beth, I'm very sorry. We lost your sound and I can't turn it back on.
I'm so sorry. I was unmuted and then somehow I got muted again, I guess. Should we sing it again?
Would you mind?
Sure.
Of course, I'm sorry.
Michael, would you put the words back up? And now in your goings out and in your comings home, may you feel the power of that Spirit which is in each of us, enabling us to know the truth, to do the good, and to offer love to the world. May you draw on that Spirit when times are hard, and may you pour it out into the world. Go in peace and in power.